Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to explain the difference between non-response bias and response bias, because as a researcher you must know about both and make sure that none of them occur in your research. So non-response bias is when participants are unwilling to or unable to respond to a survey or respond to a questionnaire or respond to the data collection method that you have employed. This normally occurs because either you have sent a survey link that they are unable to open, or it is sitting in their junk box, or they are uncomfortable in answering the questions that you want them to answer. However, response bias is different from non-response bias. Response bias occurs when the respondents have responded to a survey. They have, but their response uh, is kind of contaminated in a way that they are responding to what is expected of them to respond and not the actual response. For example, if you are a government representative and you are asking people to respond to the survey, people respond to a survey where they are trying to, where the government is trying to find out how many genuine taxpayers are there in a certain community. Now, in non-response bias will occur that if you have sent a survey to people asking them if they are genuine taxpayers, people who are not paying their tax will not respond to it at all because they are uncomfortable. That is when the non-response bias occurs. But response bias will occur if I am a government representative and I have come into your home and I'm asking you to fill a survey or answer the questions whether you are a genuine taxpayer or not. And that point of time, you are actually sort of forced or compelled to answer to that survey. If you are not a genuine taxpayer, if you have not been honest in tax paying, then you will provide incorrect, inaccurate, falsified information. That is when response bias occurs. So if you are asking husbands in front of their wives if they have ever cheated in their relationship, so of course most of the husbands will be lying through their teeth, and as a researcher you may think that you are getting the information, but it is not the actual information. So that is where response bias can also occur. Response bias can also occur if you are incentivizing, so you are giving some monetary gifts, or you are giving vouchers, or you are giving gifts to respondents who are responding to a survey, and the respondents know that it is you who wants the data, it is for your research, so they may try to please you and answer you to your benefit. Sometimes it may be lecturers who are trying to find out how good are their teaching practices or assessment practices, and they are asking the students to fill the survey in front of them in their own presence. The students may put in favorable responses because they might be worried that if the lecturer finds out that their response is not what the lecturer wants to see, the lecturer's relationship with the student may get affected. So there are these different reasons why a respondent may either lie, or may provide falsified information, or may provide inaccurate responses to the questions being asked. That is where response bias occurs. So non-response bias, of course, non-response bias, I have addressed it in my previous video on how it can be avoided, but let's talk about how response bias can be avoided. Response bias can be avoided by having neutral parties collecting the data, by making sure that the privacy of the individual is ensured. It's the same with non-response bias as well. Sometimes a non-response bias, people will be reluctant to respond to a survey even electronically if it's asking something sensitive information out of them. If you ensure their anonymity, so you make sure that their names are not included, or their telephone numbers are not included, or you provide them with an option of whether they want to include their private details or not, and whether they want those details to be published or not. Now, most of the people don't want their private details to be published, especially if it's sensitive information. So even there, even in non-response bias, you must ensure privacy and confidentiality. And same is with the response bias as well. You have to make sure neutral parties are involved in collecting the data sometimes. So like I said, a lecturer collecting data from his or her own student, asking about their teaching practices and how effective they are, is not the best idea. You must have someone neutral. You may have a fellow student member collecting the data. You may have a peer, a colleague, or another lecturer who has no relationship with the students collecting their data as well. So there are many ways to make sure that the response bias doesn't occur. So even if you are providing incentives to the respondents to respond to a survey, you have to make sure that you tell them that the researcher is not present here. So they will be incentivized, but we want honest responses. Your confidentiality will be protected, and the researcher will in no way be told who was responding, but the researcher wants honest. So you have to assure the respondents that the researcher wants honest responses from the respondents, because this is towards solving a problem or addressing a problem which is there in the community. So I hope you have understood the difference between response and non-response bias, and the more biases you recognize in your research and you explain how you have addressed those biases, the survey the examiners or the reviewers who are reviewing your thesis or your paper or your research in any form will be very happy, because they will know or they understand that the researcher was aware of the biases that can occur in research and have taken or put in measures to address them. So guys, if you have missed something, please write it in the comment section. I look forward to reading your comments. The idea here is to share and our knowledge and learn from one another. And please share, like, subscribe, and I will see you soon with my next video. Bye for now.